to this edition of Wanderlust, and happy Veterans Day to all of our men and women who have served in the military. We really appreciate your service. I'm Peggy Rosenthal, owner of Dream Vacations here in Bella Vista.
And I'm Debbie Corwin, owner of NWA Getaways Dream Vacations in Springdale. And today we are going to bring you some updates on COVID and what's going on with the world of travel, some spring break travel ideas, tips for traveling with children, current promotions in the travel world, and a travel question of the month. So as far as the COVID protocols, it's always a day-to-day thing. From one day to the next, a country can decide to open or close, but we can tell you what's going on right now and the destinations that are welcoming travelers. Some are wide open, some require COVID tests, and some require travel authorizations or quarantines. So right now, Mexico is still wide open with no testing required. The only restriction is occupancy, and right now that's about 50%. So the hotels are still not fully at capacity, and so you would have a good opportunity to social distance at a resort in Mexico. The other thing with Mexico is that they do a temperature check when you walk through the airport. So if you do show that you have a temperature as you walk past the screen, they will stop you for further health screening. Most of the rest of the Caribbean is also open, but most are requiring a negative COVID test 7 to 10 days before travel. Costa Rica is one that is welcoming guests with testing, as well as Jamaica. And Hawaii, thank goodness, Hawaii has finally opened. They do require a COVID test, and something very important to note if you're going to Hawaii, most people like to island hop. And if you are going to island hop, you will have to have a negative COVID test, not only before you leave the continental United States to go to Hawaii, but also before you go on to the next island. Central and South America are also open with testing required.
Okay, so now that Debbie has told you about the areas of the world that are open right now, I'm going to briefly bring you up to date on the parts of the world that are not open to United States citizens. The Canadian borders are still closed. We don't know when they'll open up, but it's probably not in the foreseeable future. Europe remains closed to United States citizens. Many of the countries in Europe are allowing travel across their borders intra-Europe, but not all countries. Most of Asia remains closed, a couple of exceptions, the Maldives, Pakistan, and South Korea. And while there is some sailing going on out of French Polynesia, the Australian and New Zealand cruises, for the most part, have been canceled for 2021, this sailing season. In the Middle East, Israel was forced to close for a second time in mid-September. It was expected to open up November 1st, but as of today, it is still closed. What is open is Jordan, Lebanon, the United Emirates, and Bahrain. So if you have a hankering to go to the Middle East, this is your opportunity. And in Africa, the majority of the countries have reopened to tourists, so this might be a really good time to think about that safari you've always wanted to take.
And I have to say, Peggy, that I am really disappointed right now about Israel, because I have a trip planned for the end of January, and they were supposed to reopen, and they're just not. So we'll see how that goes. So one of the things to remember is that, again, these are constantly changing, and check that U.S. Embassy page. We have it up on the screen. And we showed that to you back in September, I think. Yes. So we have a lot of information back in the September edition of Wanderlust for you that will tell you about the U.S. Embassy pages, that they update the requirements by country. And you can also check each state and country's tourism sites, like visitjamaica.com, I think was one of the ones that we told them about last time. And find out what kind of tests you need, what kind of quarantines they have, that kind of thing. And as always, you can ask your travel agent for their information on helping you with that.
Well, now that we've told you as much as we know about COVID, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk to you about spring break.
everybody. Welcome to the 2020 Cooper Communities Classic Golf Tournament. It belongs to the charities. One of the reasons we do this is to support the local charities in the area. We have all kinds of pros learning to be even more than they are from all over the United States. And this year, they've added an extra dimension, and that is that they're bringing women.
The golf tournament is very exciting because this year we have both the women and the men here. This is the first year for that. The actual tournament for the APT players starts on Wednesday. And the women will be at Scottsdale and the men at Country Club. And then once they have the cut, everybody will be at the Country Club.
I've been golfing for about 25 years.
And I've been golfing for about 10 or 12 years, seriously.
The best here at this event is probably watching the professionals and just picking up the little things that they do and the way they go about their business. And all of them that I've ever played with before have fantastic personalities, and it's just a joy and a blessing to be around them.
The host for the event, the Bella Vista Property Owners Association, provided the venue for the tournament and the Lake Point Restaurant and Convention Center for the Pro-Am party and silent auction.
The tournament is a great event because it gives us the opportunity to bring in very talented people to play on our golf courses. So it's great for us to show off our facilities and our golf courses.
The largest sponsor, of course, is Cooper Communities, and we so appreciate that. In addition to that, it's the Bella Vista Foundation that actually puts this on every year. They are the ones that really take good care of the charities and make sure that the charities are getting the benefit from this. So all the funds that are raised, after cost of course, are divided up among the charities that they've selected that year. And this year we have 5. The Bella Vista Boys and Girls Club, the Courtesy Van, the Animal Shelter, Bella Vista Community Television Station, and the Rotary Club.
The silent auction basically was invented for profits to local organizations. So every year we as the board will designate 5 charities, and so then the 5 charities get to split the dollars we make, and each of the 5 charities find donations and teams to play in the event. But then we will split all the proceeds with the profit with the charities, which is great. And every year it's going to be different charities.
So the auction is usually held on the first day of the event, on the Monday before everything happens, and we just get some of the most exciting silent auction items. I think this year we had everything from large baskets of all kinds of wine and spirits, also a grill, and that cool little miniature BMW car that they auctioned off. We really appreciate everybody that contributes to the silent auction.
The Bella Vista Foundation would like to thank the APT Tour for putting on a first-class event, Discover Bella Vista for sponsoring the Pro-Am tournament, and Mercy Medical and Kutak Law Firm as presenting sponsors for the 2020 tournament.
We thank you so much for joining us this year. Please come out and support us next year, and here's how you can do that. You can house a pro, have them stay with you. You can sign up and actually play with a pro. And you can just enjoy watching. You can stand back and be part of the crowd and just make sure that all of our charities are supported by coming to the silent auction and being part of this great event. Thank you so much. Hope to see you next year.
Welcome back. Fall is a perfect time to plan your spring break travel, and so we are going to talk about some different options. The first one that comes to mind for me is cruising. Cruising is a great multi-generational trip because there are activities for all ages on a ship. As well, your food and most drinks and your hotel, essentially, are all included, so it makes it easy to plan for your budget. Peggy, what do you think about cruising for families?
When I think about cruising for families, I think about the contemporary lines, and that is Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian. All three of those lines are an excellent opportunity for multi-generational travel. It's easy on the budget, as many of the cabins hold 4 passengers, and there are even a few cabins on most ships that hold 5. I will warn you, though, if you want one of those cabins for 5, you need to book at least 9 to 12 months in advance.
Well, Peggy, what do you do as a travel agent if you have a family of 6 that needs more space than the 5?
Good question, Debbie. So yeah, some of your families will be 5, 6, 7, 8 people. I often recommend that they get cabins across from one another. So you can have a balcony cabin that might be facing an interior cabin on the same hallway in very close proximity. So that works really, really well for your families and gives them 2 bathrooms instead of 1, which as everybody's getting ready for meals and things, that becomes a great convenience to have 2 rooms rather than a single. What's also great, and Debbie alluded to this, is that there are activities for kids on these ships. Kids 3 all the way through high school have activities to keep them busy through the day. And they're very age-specific activities. So there are elementary age, young teens or tweens, and then there's the high school group. It's a great opportunity for kids to socialize and meet friends on the ship. In fact, when I traveled with our children when they were school age, we had a hard time finding them. They enjoyed spending time with the kids so much that one night we were looking for our daughter at 11 o'clock in the evening and finally found her in a cruise ship hallway talking with about 6 other little girls. So keep your eyes on the children and make sure you have checkpoints to come back to.
I think we have a video highlighting some of those activities that you're talking about.
I think we do. Let's watch that. Okay, another great thing about cruising out of this area of the country is the option of cruising out of the Gulf. And when we talk about the Gulf, we talk about New Orleans, we talk about Galveston, and we talk about Mobile, Alabama. And all 3 of these destinations are, I wouldn't say an easy day's drive, but certainly a day's drive.
Well, that sure makes it easier on the pocketbook, not having to pay to fly.
It certainly does. And as Debbie talked about, with food and a lot of the entertainment being included in cruising, it really is a value vacation for many families. Now, stepping away from the contemporary cruise lines, Disney Cruise Lines offers a great vacation option as well. And no, it's not only for children. It is, however, at the high end of the budget spectrum, but it's certainly worth considering.
I know several people who are just couples without children that like to go on the Disney cruises simply because there's so much for the kids to do that they never feel like they even see children.
That is true. And in fact, my husband and I traveled a few years ago on Disney, and quite frankly, we're not looking forward to it, thinking it was going to be purely all about the children. Boy, were we wrong. There are adult-only bars, there are adult-only restaurants, there are adult-only swimming pools, there is even an adult-only beach at Disney's private island Castaway Key. So it is not just for the children.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Theme parks are another thing to think about for spring break. So there are a lot of theme parks throughout the country. Maybe, Debbie, you can talk us through a few of those options.
Certainly, and you know what? You were just talking about Disney Cruise Line, so we will just start off with Disney and talk about Disneyland. So Disneyland was the first one in California, and it has been around, I think they celebrated their 75th anniversary last year. So I think we've got a video going on that. Yeah, so like I said, when I was a kid, I went to Disneyland. In fact, I remember, I'm probably telling my age now, but I remember that as a theme park, it was not just you walk in and you got to ride all the rides. We got this ticket book when we went in, and so we had to use a ticket for each ride that we went on.
I remember that as well. In fact, I still use the term today when my husband is driving too fast around a curve. Ooh, this is an e-ticket ride.
Oh, I bet he enjoys that.
Yeah.
Well, the most popular one, of course, now is Disney World, and that is in Orlando, Florida, and there are several options at Disney World, the different resorts and different parks. So you have the Magic Kingdom, which is the one everyone thinks of, with Mickey and Minnie and Donald Duck and all of those. Epcot, and so that is more, gosh, when that started, it was more of a futuristic type park. So right now we are living that future. Animal Kingdom, I think, is really cool, especially as a resort that you can actually look out onto Animal Kingdom from your resort and look at the giraffes and the animals out there just right outside your window, and that's just so cool for the kids. They love that. And then there is Hollywood Studios, as well as Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach, which are the water parks that are there with the Disney resorts. There are, of course, other resorts in Orlando. Universal is one of the more popular ones, and they have the Harry Potter theme. So that is a big draw. They have a couple of different parks there as well. And if you want the full Harry Potter experience, yes, you need to go to all the parks because it's spread throughout all of them. SeaWorld is another option that people like to go to in that area, and they have a few different locations besides Orlando. They have San Diego and San Antonio as well. So that's a lot of fun to see all the animals there in SeaWorld. Other theme parks that are really close by, we have several that are close by here in Northwest Arkansas. There's Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. Worlds of Fun in Kansas City. I loved doing that one when I was a kid. The band always went to Worlds of Fun. And as well as, what's it called?
Six Flags.
Six Flags and Silver Dollar City. That's the one I
Yes.
was trying to think of. We always went to Branson. So that's a nice close drive for us as well.
That's right. And if cruising is not something that's interesting to you and you don't want to hit one of these amusement parks, don't forget about skiing. Colorado is often still a really good option for skiing, even at spring break. And there are many resorts that are within driving distance of Denver. So I don't ski any longer. I did at one point. The last time I skied was in Canada, probably 15 years ago, so I would say my skis are retired. But what's really great about visiting some of these ski resorts is even if you don't ski, there are lots of activities. There's ice skating, there's ice fishing, there are hay rides and sleigh rides. There's tubing, so if you're not a skier but you want the experience of the slopes, tubing is a great activity for all ages.
I think we have some more videos to look at on skiing, don't we?
I think we do.
Yeah.
And while most of these resorts are within driving distance of Denver, you don't necessarily need to rent a car because these resorts are very self-contained. So you can take a shuttle from Denver out to one of these resort areas, Beaver Creek, Keystone, Breckenridge, and then once you're there, there is shuttle service to all of the shopping, the restaurants. There's a lot of walkable activities. So driving is not necessarily a requirement. They are very, very self-contained. And there's lots of activities to do even outside. There's hot tubs, there's fire pits. And one of the things I think that makes ski vacations a perfect family vacation is that most of the accommodations are condominiums. And Debbie, I think that a condominium atmosphere is more comfortable for a family. What are your thoughts on that?
I always like to be in something like a condominium for that situation. I have a place to relax in a living room, not just sitting on a hotel bed. And also, I like to have some food available, not necessarily for me to prepare a meal, but maybe just even get some frozen things from the grocery store to pop into the oven that makes it easy for us. Little
Yeah.
cleanup.
Yeah, I think and it's comfortable, particularly if you have multiple generations, so you've got sleeping schedules and things that you don't have to coordinate, and it's not as difficult as a hotel.
So another option that I always think of is national parks, and Grand Canyon is one that has been on my bucket list for a while, and I think you recently went to the Grand Canyon.
I did. So we traveled actually to Las Vegas in October, and we used Las Vegas as our base. But from Las Vegas, you can visit the Grand Canyon National Park. There are several rims. You need to choose which rim you want. And we had a marvelous day. It began about 6:30 in the morning and ran until 6 o'clock at night. But it was fully escorted with meals and narratives about the canyon. And I got to test my bravery in stepping out on a ledge over the canyon. Just a great experience for families to really appreciate the beauty of our country and the beauty of the weather. So I think that's a great opportunity, whether you use Las Vegas as a base or you actually stay in the Grand Canyon area. National parks are something that everybody should see.
That sounds awesome. Well, and we've talked in the past about all-inclusive resorts in the Mexican Caribbean. We talked about it quite a bit, I think, at our September show. But those are always a great option as well for families because they're very similar to cruises in that your food is included, your hotel is included, activities are included, and you don't really have to worry about the budget and what's this meal going to cost or what's that, that activity extra going to cost. So it's a great opportunity for families as well. And I think, Peggy, you've got some options for us that you're going to share about some different prices and stuff.
Yeah, I am going to talk about that. One thing I do want to mention since we're on the spring break topic, however, is that spring break for college students can be a little bit iffy in trying to arrange an all-inclusive. So many of the resorts have placed restrictions to discourage college spring breakers. And those restrictions may include a raise in the required age. So while a resort may normally only require you to be 18, you might have to be 25, or you might have to have a parent with you, or rooms that might normally accommodate 3 or 4 might be restricted to 2. So again, it's not that you cannot travel if you're a college spring breaker, but make sure you work with your travel agent to understand all of the terms and conditions. So back to the family-friendly resorts at different ends of the budget. We've got Sunscape. So Sunscape is one of the AM Resorts properties. Great brand, but definitely on the lower end of the budget. Nice family-friendly accommodations, decent food, activities for the children, a really good entry point for a lot of families. Stepping it up a little bit are the Now Resorts. Now is also part of AM Resorts, and what you'll find at Now is a little bit more spacious accommodations, upgraded food, a little bit upgraded level of service. But again, great option for families.
I like those AM resorts because they are U.S. owned and they really cater to the U.S. tastes.
They do, and they're very flexible and they're very consistent. Really, an AM resort is consistent around the Caribbean and Mexico. And then if you go up to the high end, you're looking for a little bit of luxury and a special vacation. Generations is a resort in the Cancun area that, as the name suggests, was built around the concept of having multi-generational travel. And what you can expect at Generations is a 2-room suite where one side is dedicated to the adults, and you might find amenities there like robes and slippers and beer and wine and soda and adult snacks. And then the other room is really dedicated toward the younger crowd. And there you can find small robes and small slippers and chocolate milk and popcorn and cookies. So they go really out of their way to make sure they're customizing the amenities based on the people that will be occupying the room. And at Generations, if you're traveling with an infant, they'll even provide a stroller, diapers, formula, bottles. So really it is all inclusive to the ultimate level, a beautiful, beautiful resort to explore for multi-generations.
Wow.
I think we actually have a video now that's going to show us a little bit about Sunscape and Now Resorts.
This one is Sunscape. I believe it's the one in Curacao.
And again, Sunscape is the lesser expensive of the options, but as you can see, lots of opportunities for activities and lots of things for the family to do.
And they sure look like they're having a good time.
And you get the animals.
You know, that's one of my favorite parts about the resorts, Peggy, is seeing the animals.
So now they're showing Explorer Club, which is a club that kids can go to for kids' activities with other kids through the day. So again, mom and dad get some opportunity to do the things that mom and dad want to do as well.
And then the family can always come together anytime they want to. There's even kids clubs sometimes in the evenings.
Well, now that we've got you thinking about spring break, let's talk a little bit about tips for traveling with children. Here are a few ideas to make your family travel experience a little bit less stressful. Number one, keep your schedule loose. I think a lot of families tend to want to structure every hour of every day, and that just doesn't work necessarily with lots of generations. So keep your schedule loose and also allow for extra time. From checking in at the airport to going through security to picking up snacks and drinks for the plane, and we all know children are always hungry and thirsty. Plan extra time. You won't feel stressed and you'll just be a lot more comfortable until you reach your destination. Also, don't overpack. So many of these trips are going to take us to pools, to beaches, to very casual environments. The whole family is going to spend a lot of time in a swimsuit and a cover-up, so don't overpack clothes. And I promise all you moms out there, if you wear the same dress 2 different nights to dinner, nobody's going to notice. And you want to make sure you have extra space in your suitcase to buy some souvenirs. When it comes to activities and excursions that are really important to your family, pre-book them in advance if at all possible, particularly over spring break, because those excursions and those tours will fill up very quickly. So anything you can book ahead of time is just one less thing you need to do when you get to your destination. And reach out to your travel advisor for help with those things. Yes, we coordinate air travel and accommodations and transfers, but we can also help with those tours and those excursions and those other activities that you want to do while you're on vacation. So let us help you navigate that so that we can give you the best selection for your family. Give your kids your contact information. I know we all try and keep really close contact with all of our children. We don't want them to run off, but they do get separated from their parents at times. So whether it's a piece of paper in a pocket, it's around the neck in a little holder, make sure your children have your full name, your email, and your phone number, because if by chance you get separated, that information is going to be crucial. Bring new toys and books for the kids. I know when I travel, I always download 1 or 2 books to read while I'm waiting for my flight, on my flight, by the pool, out by the beach. The children need that as well, and make it something new. So go to Dollar Tree or Dollar General. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but make sure they have something brand new to take on vacation with them. That'll occupy their time, and again, it will reduce the stress for the whole family. So these are just a few ideas, but we have a website on your screen that'll talk to you about a complete list of ideas for your family and things you should consider.
Peggy, those are some great tips. Thanks for sharing those. What specials are you seeing out there to help families plan for spring break? Anything good to save some money?
Yeah, there are some good things going out there. So Norwegian Cruise Line right now has a program that's called Cruise First, and it's offered through the end of November. That's the expected expiration date. And how that works is that you will pay $150 right now, but you'll get $300 of credit to use toward a cruise over the next few years. So it's a really good option. It's like getting $150 free. Make sure, again, you talk with your travel agent so you understand all the terms and conditions of the Cruise Next certificate. But it's really a great investment if you plan on cruising anytime in the next few years. Norwegian also has their Free at Sea promotion, which has been running off and on for a few years. And what that means is you'll get to choose the perk you want, or 2 perks, or sometimes 3 or 4. But the perks are things like a Wi-Fi package while you're cruising, or a shore excursion credit while you're in port. It might include a specialty dining package, or for people that do consume alcoholic beverages, which can be very, very expensive on cruises, it could include your alcoholic beverages, which that package alone is worth over $1,300. So some great opportunities with Norwegian.
Those are some great opportunities. Carnival also often has some good sales. They have early saver almost all the time, but sometimes the terms on it change a little bit. And so one of the things I'm seeing right now is a choice of either a $50 onboard credit per cabin or a 50% reduced deposit, which is really nice because most deposits on a 7-day cruise end up being about $250 per person. And so if you can get your credit for just about $125 per person, then that's a lot of money saved if you're planning to put down deposits for an entire family.
Yeah, and that is a really good value, particularly right now when it's the holiday season. So budgets are kind of tight, people are shopping. It's nice to not have to have a large outlay of cash at this point.
Yeah.
Royal Caribbean is doing kids sail free right now, again for bookings that are made by the end of November. And I caution you, this is not all sailing, so you might not find kids sail free for spring break or the holiday sailings. But if you have some flexibility in your schedule, this is a great opportunity to take your family on a cruise, and the only thing you will pay for those children is the taxes and fees. You will pay no cruise fare. So a great option to look into if you've got some flexibility in your travel time.
Something else I think people need to consider, especially if you want to travel with friends and family, which to me is the most fun thing to do, is to travel with other people, is that numbers matter. So if you are traveling with a group of even as few as 5 cabins or 5 rooms, then there are certain resorts and cruise lines that will give you perks or a reduced price because of that group. So that's something to keep in mind, and that's something that definitely your travel agent can help you with.
Yes, and numbers do matter, you're right.
Yeah, so, and like I said, always check with your travel agent. Also because they have volume sales. So where you might just be one person making a reservation, that travel agent is probably making hundreds of reservations per year with a supplier. And so they can get volume discounts and extra perks that you won't get as an individual, even if you go straight to the cruise line yourself.
That's right.
So, all right. Well, thank you. One of the things that we said we were going to do every month is a travel question of the month. And so this month from John, we have the question, what are my options if the airline changes my flight and I don't like the new itinerary? Peggy, you have years of experience in the airline industry, and this sounds like one for your expertise.
Okay, I'll take a shot at it. Well, John, there's a couple of things to consider here. When it comes to schedule changes, it really comes down to whether it's a minor change or a major change. And there's not black and white definitions of those two things, but I'll give you some examples. So let's say you're booked out of XNA to somewhere in the Caribbean, and you're supposed to leave, you're scheduled to leave at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you have a 2-hour connection in Atlanta, and the airline changes the schedule, and you now have to leave at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you have a 3-hour connection in Atlanta. That's considered a minor schedule change, and you really just have to accept it and move on, because it's not going to make or break your trip or cause a lot of concern with your timing. A major schedule change might look like this. So again, you're leaving XNA, we'll say you're connecting through Atlanta, and you're scheduled to arrive in Antigua at 6 o'clock in the evening. And the schedules change, and you're now arriving in Antigua at 11:30 in the evening. And then on the return, your flight out of Antigua leaves at 5 o'clock in the evening now and forces you to overnight in Atlanta before you can connect to a flight back to XNA. That's a major schedule change. So John, in that instance, you have the opportunity to cancel your reservation and get a full refund, and then you can look at alternatives on other airlines. Now, what you might find is that the alternatives on other airlines, schedules are great, but you have to pay another $100 a person than you were going to pay on your original airline. Keep in mind that still might be a good value, because that overnight flight coming back through Atlanta, you would be responsible for your hotel. And your hotel is going to eat up that extra money you might have to spend on another airline, and you're going to end up with the schedule you want. So when schedule changes come through, and they are very frequent right now as airlines go back in the air and they're trying to adjust to supply and demand, just understand there's minor and major, and you have choices in both cases.
Peggy, that's awesome. Thank you so much. That was really good information.
You're welcome.
If you'd like us to answer your travel question next month, send an email to wanderlustbvctv@gmail.com, and we might answer your question next month.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Wanderlust. Stay tuned for our December show, where we'll be talking about Alaska and Jamaica, both very good late spring options.
Thank you.